stop getting so many manicures and go for a walk instead. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Welcome back to another episode of Manhood and Manicures, a show where real men talk real life over manicures. I'm your host, Daniel Ogunyemi. We are back with our friends at Polished Natural Nail Bar, and I'm here with another friend of mine. He's a husband, he's a father, he's an award-winning faculty member currently serving as a clinical associate professor of organizational behavior at the Mason School of Business. Please help me welcome Dr. Phil Wagner. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. This is my first manicure, ever.
That's amazing.
Ever. So I'm a little nervous, mostly because I don't think I can talk with my hands or without my hands. So we'll see how this goes. But always a pleasure to sit and chat with you.
Your passion for people is completely unmatched. Where does that love come from, and how does that permeate with how you relate to students and your colleagues?
What a great first question. All right, so background. I grew up in small town America. The population of the town I grew up in is listed as 600. It's definitely less than that because people died and nobody moved in. Yeah. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, isolated. So when we would drive an hour to go to the mall or 30 minutes to get groceries, and I recognized the interestingness of people. I was hooked. I always wanted to be in those places where there were more people.
Yeah.
And so when I had the opportunity to leave small town America and go to bigger and bigger spaces and places, I recognized how little of the world I had actually experienced. I think I'm a fundamentally curious person too.
Sure.
And so I love people. If you've chatted with me at all, chances I've asked you, what's your story?
Yeah.
Where do you come from? And what are you all about? I'm a non-judgmental person, so I really don't care, where you've come from or what you believe or why you believe it, but I want to know what that is because I want to get to know you on a deeper level. One of the best places where you're guaranteed to get to know a lot of people constantly is in higher ed. And so stepping in as a professor, I get new cohorts of students near constantly. I am quite literally meeting hundreds of new people every single year in the classroom alone. And I have been so enriched. My world has been expanded because I've been able to hear the stories of people who have lived in countries I've never even been to, who have walked miles in shoes that I've never tried, and I probably never will, but I have a better understanding of who those people are. I teach management communication, and so I'm really interested in thinking about how we can adapt messages to different audiences. One of the best ways you can do that is to expand your horizons and get to know other people's stories and lived experiences, so that when you speak in a big room, you're thinking I can adapt this message to, a variety of different people because I understand the stories of a variety of different people.
Yeah.
So I love people. I love stories. Bring all the people to me.
It's obvious to me, I haven't interacted with you and seen you in action. I mean, people love you. The students love you.
Thanks.
And you talked about teaching communications and public speaking and things like that. How do you teach people how to articulate the image or the persona that they feel like they want to embody?
Ooh, those are interesting words. The persona.
Yeah.
So some of my past work and my preparation is in the field of communication, which is not too far removed from theater. I love theater. Love theater. I cannot get enough. I'm not a performer, but I wish I was. I would love to be in that space. But communication is not all that different from theater. And when you talk about it being a performance or a persona, I think a lot of times people's first instinct is that it's sort of dishonest. In the field of communication, there are a lot of theories that inform our work. I'm getting ready to teach a new batch of graduate students. We're going to talk about this week 1. Sociologist Irving Goffman calls this the presentation of self in everyday life. He talks about how everybody performs, whether you admit that you do it or not. You have this kind of front stage performance where you're negotiating your identity in public places. And then you have this kind of backstage performance, which is different.
Yeah.
But front stage, backstage, everybody's performing in some way. And it's not, I'm putting on a mask to be somebody that I'm not. If you try to do that, many people do, it doesn't work well. People are going to smell that authenticity from a mile away. So when you talk about adopting a persona or performing in some way, I think what you're really talking about is trying on different roles, trying on different voices for different contexts. And I think that's a really ethical practice, not an unethical one, because you're trying to meet the needs of the audience in a very specific context. So I think the answer to the question lies in thinking about performance as something that is fundamentally an expression of your authenticity. Really recognizing, like, who am I when I walk into a room? How am I perceived? Does that match up in the way that I perceive myself or want to be perceived? And if not, how am I making those adjustments? And then how I show up in a room sort of meet the needs of the people in that room? And every good leader should be thinking about that. So I like that language of performance because we have a lot of misguided notions of what it means. I teach my students the best way that you can perform is performing in a way that is true to self, not apologizing for who you are. You know, there was many years in my professional life, I think I tried to hide my quirks. I tried to like soften. You mentioned that I'm at William & Mary. I've got a lot of imposter syndrome. I do not have a strong academic pedigree. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. I didn't go to an Ivy League institution. I got scrappy as I found my way into various places and spaces. When I came to William & Mary, I'll be the first to admit my students are far smarter than I could ever hope to be. The faculty members that I get to teach alongside, good grief, ridiculous academic pedigrees. So for a long time, I really tried to perform that, smart intellectual, academic, meek and mild. Bro, that's not me. I am loud. I live in the chaos lane. And I finally recognized that it was time to stop apologizing for that. I have value add. Students will come to me and share things that they won't feel comfortable sharing with other people. They'll get goofier with me, and they'll be a little bit more vulnerable with me. Well, in the communication space, that's good. I've given them a safe place to kind of like try things out so that when they go out in the world of work, they understand who they are and how they communicate. And so I've stopped apologizing for that, and that's the same thing I try to get them to do, to perform in a way that is fundamentally authentic. I think that's the key to successful communication.
This authenticity that you talk about seems to be a lost art. And we tend to give the perception, sort of like you mentioned, like the prestige at some places, or we give this perception that the loudest in the room or the one that's the most eloquent equals the most competent.
Yeah.
Help me understand how people can actually be authentic without feeling like they have to be the loudest or have the best speech.
I think the key is recognizing that the strongest leaders, the best leaders measurably, sure they talk, but more than anything, they shut up. They listen, right? You're gathering data points. The more you quiet yourself and you listen to the insights and the perspectives and the stories of others, you're getting data points you wouldn't otherwise have. And so you want to demonstrate competence. You want to have the best leadership strategy. Close your mouth a little bit. Listen to other people. Give them some time to speak. And then replace sort of like you speaking into the void because you're insecure and you want to prove how smart you are. Be humble enough to recognize you don't have all of the data points. You get those by being quiet and listening to others. Am I supposed to rub these together?
Yes.
I'm learning. I'm learning as we go. Dan, you're giving me a new context here.
Hey friends, I'm Olalu Ogunyemi, U.S. Marine officer, author, and mentor, and founder of ParentChildConnect.com. At Parent Child Connect, we believe that leadership starts at home. That's why we provide tools and resources for parents, teachers, and mentors to connect with and guide the next generation of impactful leaders. Come join us at parent-child-connect.com so we can inspire, connect with, and lead the next generation of impactful leaders.
Clip it or keep it. Real men should always be the loudest in the room.
Clip out the men who are talking just to talk. Keep the men who are talking because they're using their voice to create place for others.
Confidence is about how you look. If you look the part, you are the part.
See, I'm going to find the gray everywhere. Keep and clip. Your looks matter, but you shouldn't look a certain way because you're trying to be a certain part that someone else wants you to be. I think the world of work is expanding how we think about professionalism. We see this all the time. It used to be like, don't ever have a tattoo, or like, watch the natural hair. Get rid of all those gross standards. Let people be people. You want to dress a certain way? You want to do your hair a certain way? You want to paint your nails? You want to have you should do that. You should be the person you authentically are, and people should create space for that. And if they don't, you should find a new place to be.
Men showing insecurity or doubt is a weakness.
Daniel, you're putting me on the spot because keep it. Men should feel free to show some insecurity because far too long, men have enacted this tough machismo, and that doesn't work well. That's why men die younger. That is why they have poorer health outcomes, and that is why we have an epidemic of a mental health crisis among men, because men aren't able to admit, hey, I'm struggling. Hey, this is tough. So don't be so afraid of insecurity. Don't be so afraid to not be the strongest person in the room.
Men don't or shouldn't worry about body image. That's just something women should worry about.
Women shouldn't worry about body image either. Men shouldn't worry about body image. Cut that. Clip that. Worry about your health. Think about your body and create your body and adorn your body and dress your body and move your body in whatever way you want, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. It's your body to do what you want to do with.
You started studying this notion of body image in your PhD days when you were working on your dissertation.
Yes.
What led you to that topic?
Well, you're in the middle of a dissertation writing process. What leads you to a topic? You got a dissertation to write. You have a research agenda that you got to hammer out. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit of a chaotic person. I like to dabble in everything. And so it's really nerve-wracking when you're a young faculty member in the making. You know your early research agenda is something you're going to be tethered to really for the rest of your life, but certainly for those first few formative years after the PhD, I wasn't sure I could keep my own interest in one specific research agenda. So I really just looked at what was going on in my own personal life. And around that time, I also had my first kid just a few years prior. So I entered my PhD program when my oldest was like 3 months old. Bad time to start a PhD, but that's fine. But when I held her for the first time, it showed me how different life was about to be from the life I had known before kids. Like nothing changes your life like having kids. And I want to caveat what I'm about to say first and say I am a big believer in health at every size, in body positivity, in body neutrality. Just like people have bodies, let them be.
Yeah.
I have to also be honest and say when I stepped on the scales when my firstborn was born, the number shocked me. And I'm not in the business of like sharing numbers because people have different numbers. Numbers are dumb. But I wasn't healthy. Like my health was not where it needed to be, and having that kid showed me that. So I started a weight loss journey right around the time I started my PhD, and I dropped a lot of weight. I've lost well over 150 pounds in my life and have kept it off and had skin removal surgery. And it was actually not really the weight loss, but it was how people treated me differently post-weight loss than they did when I sort of entered that grad program. I was the same person, same credentials, and yet all of a sudden new doors of opportunity were open to me that I hadn't had before. Conversations with people who would have never talked to me started to happen. I'm thinking, is this just because my body changed? And so I actually, in my dissertation, explored how and why men pursue physical fitness. And I did a method called photo voice, which, I'm old, so now everybody has a cell phone in their pocket and they can take a picture anytime. That wasn't necessarily so much so back when I did my dissertation, but a lot of the folks had their own cameras, but they would take a camera and they would go for a 2-week period. These were men who were actively pursuing fitness in some way. They would go and document what it meant to be a man pursuing physical fitness. And that was the only instructions I gave them. Like I wanted to be very open-ended. They could be abstract, they could be literal. I didn't do a lot of hand-holding. I just wanted to know through their eyes, what did that pursuit of fitness look like? And I got back hundreds of images and then sat down with these men and had a series of interviews where we worked through them. And to boil it all sort of down to what happened, I got a lot of images that you might expect. Like, oh my gosh, so many like flexing selfies, like boring, right?
Yeah.
But because it was over 2 weeks, men started to get really creative. And I got a lot of different images that really sort of centered around some of the same themes. I wouldn't just get, bicep pictures. I would get images of bloodied knuckles, bandaged, wrapped shins, injuries, because the pursuit of that fitness was so important to men. But we got more images that kind of told us why. Because it wasn't just images of bodies and injuries. I got images of luxury cars, images of Wall Street, images of money. Remember, their ask was, what does it mean to be a man pursuing fitness? What do those have to do? And in the interviews, it really came through that men thought the pursuit of this ideal, strong, masculine body was going to open up more opportunities for them to be taken respectfully, to make more money. We got images of, Playboy centerfold models and Sports Illustrated covers and, various images of particularly girls. All of my participants except one were heterosexual at the time, just happened to be how the cards fell. And what that really showed us is this was also about sexual capital. As we dug even deeper, we got images of things that we didn't expect. The ask was document what it means to be a man pursuing fitness. And I got images of machetes, guns, ammunition, knives. And I'm like, what is this all about? And it was so interesting because in those interviews, these like really young, kind of sweet college-age men, just everyday men, really could not separate this pursuit of fitness and masculinity from this pursuit of violence. And I think it's because when you see fit male bodies in the media, particularly the era that I was studying, throughout the 80s and the 90s, those fit male bodies were always enacting acts of dominance. They were perpetuating violence or doing something to take up space. And so for these men, it was this really interesting tale of how the pursuit of fitness, nobody said it was about health. I didn't get images of salads. Nobody said it was about a number on a scale. For them, it was about pursuing a very specific type of masculinity. And that really revealed to me how intricately woven together our ideas about bodies and our ideas about gender are interwoven. And so that's what spawned my early research trajectory and kind of impacts a lot of how I think about the world today. Bodies and body images are still important to me. I'm a fitness instructor, but I love now curating spaces. I teach kickbox and body pump and cycle, spaces for all bodies to feel comfortable and come and pursue movement together. So that's a long-winded answer to say, I got there because I noticed how people treated me differently. It did something within me, and I wanted to push back against that.
I love that so much. And it kind of makes me wonder how that experience from the birth of your daughter to the research that you were doing to now being a fitness instructor, how is that all interwoven to the last several years of your own fitness and wellness journey?
Yeah. Just today, I taught a fitness class. I'll do so again tomorrow. It's actually something that I've sort of brought my family along with on the journey. Actually, my wife and I, we've been together now almost 20 years. We've lost a combined over 300 pounds together.
Wow.
We teach together. My wife has actually written a book on body image. So it's something that really occupies a lot of energy in our house. And we have a very, again, sort of body neutral / body positive. There are different perspectives on what that means, and I have my own perspectives here. But what I really mean to say is in our household, we pursue health. And if that means you're a size 26, if that means you're a size 2, nobody cares. You pursue the version of health that is specific to you. We've brought our kids along on this journey. My 13-year-old actively trains in a boot camp setting. She's far stronger than I could ever be. She scares me. And so, it's something that's such a huge part of my personal life. I bring that into the classroom. Again, going back to my professional life, I teach various iterations on management communication. There's a lot of science to how you move about a space and how you carry your physical body in a space. And so being able to teach in a fitness setting and then bring the science of movement into those academic and professional settings is actually really, really helpful. And so, I like to bring those interests into the classroom as well. It's a huge part of my life. I love being a professor. I love teaching those classes too.
I think about the same thing in my own life. I used to be an athlete. I don't look like the athlete I used to be. And so trying to wrestle with this concept of body image, and while also, you want to look good, but you also want to be healthy.
And you're allowed to want to look good, and you're allowed to make changes, and you're allowed to walk through life as a person in a larger body or a skinnier body, and you're allowed to pursue weight loss, and you're allowed to say, now I'm good. I think that's the thing that we don't do enough, is we don't give people the permission slips to just say, be you.
So what message would you give someone who is on a journey where maybe they don't have the healthiest of body image according to themselves, or they may be struggling with a lifestyle change that they're wanting to make, what will be your message to that person?
One of the best things I think you can do is, despite how you want to carry yourself throughout life, there's a lot of evidence that movement is so good for you, both in terms of like the physical health outcomes, but in terms of mental health outcomes. And I actually think if you pursue movement and you seek out the right space, you'll find that actually they're not as judgment-filled as what you might suspect. There's been a big ideological shift, particularly over the last decade. We have a lot more thought leaders talking about body positivity, body neutrality, et cetera. And you'll find that, yeah, sure, some of your boutique gyms or some of your certain, box chains might be like He-Man Central, and they may still be filled with some of those toxic ideas. But I found some of the most supportive people and some of the greatest body diversity to be in like a local YMCA or a boot camp setting. They're actually not as judgment-filled as what you might suspect. There's power in community. We know that. I love group fitness because it gives you a community and it gives you a space where you can move together in the same motion with others. Yeah. It's 2025 and look at the state of the world. Yeah. There is no context where any two people are moving in the same direction.
Right.
But, for 45 minutes to an hour for you to be in a group setting where everybody's literally like doing the same thing and on the same page, that to me is quite powerful too. So believe it or not, I would say go find a gym and move your body, go for a walk. That's one of the most freeing things I think that you can do in that space. Nobody should shame you into any fitness regimen. You don't have to have an excuse for anybody. If you're busy and your best form of self-care is I need to crash out and watch Netflix, please do that so you don't have a mental health crisis. But movement is good for everybody. And I think in a world where our lives are filled with screens and technology, I know you're a family guy. Like I know you beyond this recording. It's so easy to say, you know what? It's turning fall. Why don't we go for a long walk together as a family or as a couple or as friends or colleagues? And instead of sitting on a Zoom call or instead of sitting and, watching TV and having dinner together, why don't we go for a walk and talk about our days or talk about this or that? It can be a space of connection while you're also moving your body. So, if your idea of fitness and movement is, I get a 20-minute walk in, cool. If it's, hey, I want to try something new, I want to challenge myself, I'm going to get, I'm going to be able to do 10 unbroken chin-ups this year, seek out that space. But, my message for a lot of different lanes of life is find what works for you. It goes back to the authenticity thing. Yeah. You can't perform what I perform because this is authentic to me. If you do that, you're fraud. You need to do something that's authentic to you. So you don't need to make excuses. You are busy, but find an opportunity to do what makes your heart sing and pursue that health and wellness in whatever way makes sense for you.
I have this perception of fitness that I have to be in the same shape I was 12 years ago or 15 years ago. And I don't consider myself to be old, but I'm getting to the territory to where it feels like
yikes.
You might be too old for some of that stuff you were doing.
Yeah.
So having the permission to just do anything to move and it actually be meaningful is a helpful reminder for sure.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about like this notion of confidence and self-esteem.
Okay.
Because we can talk about it from a physical standpoint, as we've been doing with our bodies and how we move those, how we view those, how we come to terms with our bodies.
Yeah, sure.
How in the world do we do that from a mental standpoint? Like coming up with this notion of I can be a man while also walking in the headspace, the physical space that I'm currently in.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's hard to fully disentangle them. The connection between your mind and body and soul or spirit or, sort of however you conceive of that inner working of who you are is really intricate. You kind of can't separate them. It's like, what's the egg? Is it the yolk or is it the white or is it the shell? Well, it's all the egg, right? And even if you take them apart, they're all still connected in some way. Yeah. So, I think the body thing matters, but moving beyond body image, I think confidence means recognizing like who you are when you walk into a room and being okay with that. I'll use another body-related example, but it ties back to the mind. I think one of the things that drove me to be interested in communication is that I wasn't great at it. And I wasn't great at it because I didn't have confidence. Because I was a very, very large kid. I was bullied in some of the most excessive ways you could ever imagine. Bullying's come a long way, thankfully. Back when I grew up, it was sort of like a rite of passage if you were a bigger kid.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I also have Tourette's syndrome. Like, you see me on the camera. Like, you've seen the shoulder twitch? No, I don't have an itch. Like, that's sort of who I am. And so being a profoundly overweight kid who twitched and made awkward sounds and did awkward things with his eyes because he has Tourette's syndrome and has obvious ADHD and has complex OCD, like, I think I pursued the practice of communication because I was so desperate to be taken seriously, and I wasn't sure that I could be, because in my own mind, I felt like I was a joke too. So everything is connected. Like, how you think about your body is connected to your confidence. I'm not saying get confident by like going and lifting over a year and becoming a new you. No, that's kind of gross. But I'm saying, like, learn to love yourself, because you cannot be confident if you do not love yourself first and foremost. It can go overboard. You got a lot of CEOs who love themselves a little too much. There is a little bit of overconfidence too. I think the right blend of confidence is recognizing I have value when I walk into a room. I have something to add here. And the value add and the reward for that is not for me. It's what I'm able to do for other people, who I'm able to serve by my unique value add. And so I come into my classes and I share my story of what it was like to be grossly bullied growing up, and to be a kid with Tourette's syndrome, and to be a professional with Tourette's syndrome. And I like to think, and I know it to be true because I've had students respond and say, thank you for sharing that, because, you know, I'm coming from China and English is not my native language, and I'm really nervous to be in this program and communicating, and you sharing that, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, frees me up. Or thank you for sharing that I have a trauma history and I'm nervous, or, you know, whatever those experiences are, you know, gives them a permission slip to say, you don't have to perform a certain way. So confidence is being able to know that you have a value add and not avoid your quirks, not run from your history, but maybe like lean into them and share them openly and vulnerably if it feels right to you and it feels appropriate to the situation. To me, that's real confidence.
It's such a shocker to me to hear you talk about, you know, you mentioned earlier imposter syndrome or like your lack of confidence, because I've seen you in action. Like, I mean, recently I saw you speaking to an auditorium plus full of folks twice, and it did not at all occur to me that this man does not have confidence or has struggled in the past with confidence or imposter syndrome. It just unearths another thing for me. Like, there are so many times where everyone, and I think men in particular, may struggle with these underlying issues that we're afraid to be vulnerable of, or we're afraid to speak of. When did that become freeing for you to be able to do so and see how it benefits others?
It's a great question. A long time. It took a long time. It took a long time. So when I moved out of small town America, going back kind of full circle here, and understanding the world is filled with different people and different stories, I recognized that the quirks that I was so ashamed of are just one of many quirks that other people carry too, and it's nothing to run from. Nothing shifted overnight, nothing changed overnight, and there wasn't like sort of one light bulb moment or light switch moment. I have a little bit of a complicated history, family history. I have a little bit of a complicated background, and so seeing a mental health therapist later in life, which is also something that a lot of men don't do, but absolutely need to, working through that gave me the confidence to recognize that I could give myself that permission slip to be me, and that there was a value in that. And so the answer to that question is therapy freed me up, right? And finding a trusted therapist. Because of my complicated background, man, the last person on earth I wanted to work with was some like middle-aged white guy. That's who my therapist is, Craig. And I love that guy. It took me a while. I had 2 other therapists that I had tried beforehand. One gave me all the therapy speak in the world. It was just like I was watching a movie and I could predict what they were about to say.
Oh, man,
and I was like, no. The other one loved their personality, but they could never remember what we talked about the time before. I think their caseload was a little too high. And if I'm doing all this self-work, you better believe you're going to work too. And so I think the other thing is, if you are interested in getting that therapeutic intervention, it's okay to shop around. It's okay to test drive a few, and you can pick a new one. And if that one stops working for you, you can abandon ship. But one of the most freeing things I've ever done is have a long-standing relationship with my mental health therapist, there have been times where that was bi-weekly. There have been times where that was like just checking in once a month. Now I might see him, I don't know, at times every 6 months, and then I'll be like, hey, you want to meet again next week? Or he'll reach out. And so it's having that sort of trusted relationship with someone. That's what gave me the freedom to be confident, but it also freed up a lot of other things too.
What are your favorite things about being a family man?
Yeah. So I had my first kid very young, very, very young. You know, everybody always says, like, marriage is so hard. I'm so sorry if that's true. That was never the case for me. And so, like, I had been with my wife. We were really close friends, and then we grew to be in a relationship, and we got married. And, like, I don't have the story that marriage is hard. Like, my wife's my best friend. We get along so, so well. So when people were like, I don't know, parenthood is really hard. That's what they said about marriage. And I was like, that's not true. And so I just was like, no, it's going to be easy. No, bro. Parenting has been the hardest thing I have ever had to do or had the privilege to do. I've always loved it. I mean, from the very first few seconds that, my firstborn came to the world, I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. And also, this is scary. Because the world of today is not like the world of yesteryear. I mean, like, raising, preteens and teenagers in the era of technology and AI and the messy political system and trying to teach them to be respectful and advocate for that. It's like, it's such a mess. I will tell you, I have no problem saying it, I really think the toughest years of being a parent are the early years. Like when they're babies and stuff. That's my thing. Everybody always says like, oh, middle school is so tough and they're awful and they're mean. And yeah, they are awful and they're mean because they're going through a lot of changes, but they're becoming little adults. I love the season of parenthood that I am in right now. This is where I want to freeze the frame. Everybody's like, oh, don't you wish you could keep them little forever? No, I do not. Like, I absolutely, I do not, I don't miss that at all. It was cute. Yeah. I got pictures and videos. That's all I need. I got the souvenirs from that moment. I'm good. Now, to have real conversations, I took my wife was out of town on a work trip. And so randomly, the kids and I went to D.C. last weekend. And just a little road trip. And, it's like a 3-hour car ride, 4 if there's some traffic. And we talked the entire way. And I just, the whole time was like, gosh, I love this. Yeah. Like, I just, I talk about loving people. I love, like, the people that are my kids and seeing, like, the world through their eyes. And so we talk a lot in our household. If you can tell, like, I'm a talkative person. This is my whole family. We do not shut up. Like, my dog is so annoyed with us because it's just talking constantly.
Wow.
But I love this era of parenthood because I'm getting to see the world through and, like, hear their hurts and their frustrations and their hopes and their dreams. And it's just, I love it. I love it. And so I don't know what the answer to your question is because now I'm all emotional because I'm talking about my kids and I'm like, oh, but it's just, it's so fun to me. It's like all the hard work of them being little kids. Finally it's like really paid off. I could not have better kids. I love them so much.
Can I have some advice of like how we survive this current phase that I'm in? Because I'm in the little phase. And I must shout out my wife because, wow.
Yeah.
She's the real MVP of parenting.
Yeah, mine too. Mine was an early childhood educator for many years. And so, like, gosh, I'm so thankful my kids, like, know how to be. And I think that is, like, largely because of her, for sure. My biggest advice is to just be patient and just be honest and say, like, there are moments that suck. You have a difficult job, I have a difficult job. It's, it's rewarding, but we work hard, right? Yeah. And so, those sleepless nights, it's really hard to wake up when your kid had you up in the middle of the night and you're like, I got 4 hours of sleep and now I got to go give this presentation, I got to teach, and you just recognize, like, you roll with the punches. It sounds so cliche, but recognizing that it does change and you are pouring into them now in ways that you'll, like, reap the benefits of later. So just stay the course, take it from somebody who has, like, been there and understands, like, it is a struggle. Yeah. I feel like people are not honest about that. It's almost like people think if they say parenting is hard, they're somehow saying, like, I don't love being a parent or I don't love that's so not true. Being a professor is profoundly hard, and I love it. I can't imagine any other profession. Sometimes the most difficult things in life are also the most rewarding. Absolutely. So I just, like, recognize, like, yeah, there are nights that suck, there are days that suck, and that's okay. Those days pass, and then you move on, and it's all okay again. And one day, you'll sit back and be like, wow, this is what this was for. It was like for this conversation, or we built such a strong relationship through those tough times that now my middle schooler feels like she can tell me anything. I mean, truly anything. And I love that. I grew up in a household where it's like, my parents wanted me to kind of like not bring that stuff. Like it was better to just swallow it. And if I didn't get found out or caught, like that's all they cared about.
Yeah.
You know, that's not my story, and that's not my kid's story. And so, boy, we've had some tough conversations that I didn't think I was going to have with a 13-year-old. But we have a communication environment where she feels comfortable. That's so rewarding to me.
What else have we not covered that you want to mention? Or is there anything else that we haven't covered that you want to mention?
I want to know why you're doing this. Like, what's your why for this? Because, like, this is cool. Shout out. These are so soft. Like, you have this is like an oil slick. This is, so I get it. I love the concept for this. Why'd you start this podcast in the first place?
So I feel like this was sort of a God-given thing, if I'm being honest. And in January of 2024 is when I first mentioned something to my wife about it.
Cool.
And I just kind of dismissed it. I didn't really know what it would come of or think much of it. So fast forward to where we are now, towards the middle or end of 2025, it was certainly something that I see as a missing concept. I still know people, I still run into people that manicures, pedicures is not a manly thing.
Yeah.
It's not something that you do. And again, shout out to my wife because she's the one who introduced me to this concept and this notion that it's okay to like get a pedicure and a manicure and to show your feet. And like those things are okay. And so I see so much of how men being vulnerable, men taking care of themselves, looking after their own wellness. And I remember the first time I went and got a pedicure without my wife, I was sitting there like, this is mad weird.
Yeah.
But I'll be back.
Yeah.
Because it was just something that I didn't know. I didn't know I had permission to do it.
Yeah.
And so my hope is that by Manhood and Manicures, we sort of rewrite or rethink some of the traditional norms of manliness in a healthy manner, in a healthy way. And doing so over Manicures was, it just, everything started falling in line and it made so much sense.
I think that's cool. You talk about we give ourselves permission. There's this like common theme that men hold the permission slips in society, and it's like when a man tells you can't, okay, all right, cool. It's so funny because men don't give themselves permission, right? And so it's this sort of like fake enacted confidence. Whereas if you would just recognize, like, I'm going to give myself permission to like, I'm coming back here because like this is so smooth. Like, thankfully I've gotten to the place like early 20s. I really got to the place where I'm like, I don't care what people think about. I really don't care. I'm not going to perform some masculine script. If I want to wear it, if I want to do it, like if I want to paint these ones pink, I really don't care. That is so freeing. It's so freeing. I'm thankful that to be able to raise kids in that world too. You know, where I'm like, just be you, please. It's hard enough to live in this world. Just be you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining the show, Dr. Phil. This is the real Dr. Phil.
Yes.
This has been so amazing, so enlightening, and the start of what I believe will be a great thing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.